welcome to episode 2, season 1 of Tea in a Chat with Harry and Pat, aka...
Season 2, episode 1?
Oh no, we're just on season 1 still, sorry. Season 1, episode 2, I just got the wrong way around. And again, my name's not Pat, but it rhymes, so... Anyway.
If we get people like turning up and seeing us one day and you're like, oh, it's Harry and Pat, so you're gonna...
Yeah, I
like
my name.
I like your name.
Okay, but...
Harry and Zara. Your tea is full.
Maybe send in recommendations of like a cool little catchphrase that rhymes. I feel like Tina's chat with Zara and Harry, I don't know. Anyway, moving on. My tea is full, ready for all the slurping.
Oh.
It's hot actually.
Well, it's just been made.
It is hot, don't touch it.
Some sound advice, we kick it off strong.
Right, so
what is this episode about today?
So this episode today is all about your dreams. I'm finding out if the dreams that you are telling yourself you have are actually yours to have. Well, obviously that sounds a bit like what on earth, but we'll get into it. I feel like I might ramble a bit doing this one. I feel like this is very much up my street.
Okay.
Harry might not get a word in edgeways, but hey, maybe episode 3 will be his turn.
I'm sure I'll have questions to ask that are probably irrelevant, but I'll ask them anyway.
No.
Cool. Okay, so let's kick it off then.
Yeah, there's sort of like five-ish points I think it's important to cover in this episode. And yeah, we'll just dive right in, shall we? So, point number 1 is your dream really yours to chase? Now, what I mean by that is, I guess, as we grow up and as we learn things, as we grow as people, we take on the expectations and the things we're told by the world, by the people around us. We get ourselves into like environments where we start to believe that we should want certain things, or to be successful we should do certain things, and it's not really deep down at our core what we would have wanted. So yeah, something interesting I think is important to say here is in a book by Louise Hay, I can't remember which one it is, I think it might be You Can Heal Your Life, if not it's the sequel to that one. She talks about a thing that is basically if you really wanted to you could, and how you should remove the word should from your vocabulary. So for example, I could say I really should do those dishes, you know, like I really should do those dishes. That's sort of putting the power elsewhere, and you have to internalize that and say, if I really wanted to, I could do the dishes. And then that's such a silly example, because no one really wants to do the dishes, but
well, it depends though, doesn't it? I think that makes sense to me. It's sort of removing the responsibility,
I guess,
from your sort of thought process almost, in my understanding anyway. I
guess a better example of that is, like, say for example you're a dancer and your dream show is to be in, I don't know, The Lion King, right? And as you think about that, you're like, well, I should be taking acro classes because I don't have my tricks up to where they could be. I should be taking singing lessons so that I can sing the ensemble tracks. I should be blah 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 blah. But you're not doing any of it. That's a chance for you to look inward and say, well, if I really wanted to, I could. What's stopping me? Like, I could book this lesson. I could blah blah blah. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it's like your application.
Yeah.
How you apply yourself based on what you desire.
And I think that's the first step to like change the dialogue you're telling yourself, to be like, actually, do I want to do that? Am I willing to? Here's another thing. I was told this by a lady called Christie Lee Manning, who I will probably reference for the rest of my life, for the rest of time. I learned this through I don't know if she said it or it was someone in a book or something, I'm not sure. But she talks about eating a shit sandwich, right? And it's like being in the industry, or it goes to anything in life really, right? There's a certain level of a shit sandwich you have to eat. Like these things you have to do that you maybe don't necessarily want to do all the time. For example, you want to be in the Lion King, you don't really want to take singing lessons, but you want the job at the end of it. So which one weighs out? It's all about how much of a shit sandwich are you willing to eat, and you have to work out what's right for you. There's no right or wrong, you know. It's not bad if you go, actually, do you know what, I don't want to do the singing lessons. Sorry for hitting the microphone. I don't want to do the singing lessons, and like, I don't know, I think that's just the first step of the process, you know. I could ramble on about that, but
as you can tell by the interactive microphone usage, Sarah's getting very animated. It's interesting. I think that's very interesting. I think, yeah, I think especially the very first thing about, you know, is it really yours to chase? I feel, maybe this is me as going to an avenue as an artist as well. I feel like there's a lot of the educational system day to day, and maybe it's different now from when I was at school, but I think there's a lot of, and I suppose it also depends on how you look at it, but it's a lot of like, you have to get things right in order to move forward. At least that's how I saw it.
Yeah.
And for me, I felt like that didn't leave room for failure. And I understand the process, you know, the more things you get right, the more you've got an understanding, the better grades you get, the better place you get to go. I get that. But for me, as an individual, I was so fearful of getting anything wrong that I'd never even like put my hand up and attempt to try. So my progression is like halted, I suppose, in hindsight, so it feels, because I don't know, I feel sort of corrupted is perhaps too strong a word, but like I don't dare put myself out there, so I feel like I would fall into a pattern of like, I guess I'll do this, and it's not necessarily what I want to do, but it's like, I feel like I'm going to do this because I can do that. I feel like I can put my hand up and get the answer right in this instance, but
it's like you're trained in a certain way, so that's what you feel like you should do, that's what you feel comfortable doing, that's how you feel comfortable with your hand up, that's how you know what I mean.
Yeah, it's a security thing, I guess, isn't it?
I guess that comes as well with like your self-sabotaging behaviours, like why haven't you booked a singing class? Why haven't you booked the acting class? Why haven't you, do you know what I mean? What is it that has stopped you? Are you worrying about something external, or is it that deep down in your core you know it's not quite what you want to do? And maybe it's just as simple as finding another path to get to the end product. Maybe it's the end product is just something you've been told you want to do. But yeah, I guess the main point I'm trying to make through all this rambling is, I think you need to be clear with yourself what it is what parts you actually want and what parts have been told to you that you should want.
You've been fed. I think you can be influenced, can't you? Even like in a family environment, you know.
Oh yeah.
You've got a family who've worked in the same job for years and years and years, and that's not what you want to do. That's okay.
It's like, I should want this because this is what everyone else is. Everyone else is moving to London. Everyone else, I should want to do that. Everyone else is, you know what I mean? And you start to tell yourself that so much, you believe it's yours, and it's not. Is your dreams really yours to chase at that point? Anyway, shall I move on to point 2 before we ramble anymore?
Yeah, carry on. If you feel like you've said all you need to say, do carry on.
Probably not.
Anything else you feel like is relevant to get in? No, because I think, you know.
Yeah, well, if there is, I'll...
Sure. Okay, point 2 then. What's the next thing?
So the next thing is being clear on what your dreams are, which I guess feeds into the last one. And more importantly, are you brave enough to ask for them? Because I think, again, sometimes those sabotaging behaviours, and I think this maybe feeds a bit more into what you were saying about being scared to put your hand up and whatever. It's like, you have to know what dreams are yours, you have to know what it is you want, and you have to have this, like, unwavering, maybe not unwavering is the right word because that's not realistic, but just braveness to be like, yeah, I'm going to go for it, I'm going to ask for this thing, I'm going to make it happen, you know.
Sounds like self-belief to me.
Yeah, so this pretty much is all about that. So it's being clear on what you want. So we've unpacked what is ours and what is being put on us by the rest of the world. So now we know what we want. We need to be specific, I believe. So we'll get a bit more into this in the next point. But if we know exactly what it is we want, aka we want to be in Lion King, we can then work out the steps that we need to do to get there. Whereas if we're just like, I want to be a professional dancer, that's, I mean, of course there's things you can do, but if you want to be a professional dancer in a musical theatre show or a professional dancer in a commercial, they're two different things, you know? So it's all about like tying everything together. Almost more importantly, do you believe you can have it? Because, again, this goes back to the self-belief thing, but if you're like, yeah, I want to be in Lion King, but every time I go to an audition, everyone's so much better than me, I don't deserve it, blah 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 blah. You are telling yourself, you're telling your brain, you're telling the world that it's not going to happen for you, and the universe itself will be like, okay, well, you know.
I mean, you're reinforcing your own belief of that as well, you know. If that's what, even if it's not what you want, but you reinforce that belief, that's what you're going to believe.
Exactly.
You know?
And it's I challenge you all to say, why not? Why not me? You know? Why screw everything else? Why can't I have it? You know? Because you can. That's the thing.
Life's too short as well. Like, why? I think life's too short for compromise, in my opinion. Especially after COVID. I feel like if COVID has taught us anything, it's that we should just go and do what we want to do. Life's short.
Exactly.
And you don't know what is going to happen tomorrow.
And I believe, if you are clear on what you want, you know what you want, you reach towards what you want, somewhere in all that, you will fall into something that is right for you. Even if it's not like exactly what you had thought it was, the right thing is going to come because you're aligning yourself in the right place, you know?
Well, you're getting towards what you want as well, aren't you? So if you're walking in the direction towards the thing you want, you're going to find things along the way that correspond with that, and you know, it's all going to be good because you're going towards the thing you desire. So
exactly.
That, you know, there may be obviously ups and downs along the way, but the ultimately, as you go in that direction, you're getting closer to something you desire. So it's not going to be a bad journey in the long run, I believe.
Yeah, I agree. I feel like this could very easily fall into manifesting, but we'll just save that for another video because some people might not want to hear about that. But it will come.
I think on that, I think anything we talk about in any podcast or life or anything, and I think I'd say this goes for anyone, anywhere, whoever's saying it, whoever's listening and receiving it. If something doesn't resonate with you, that's fine. You don't need to take it on. You don't need to think this is the way. You know, I think you take what works for you and you run with that.
It goes back to the first point. Is it yours or is it not?
Well, exactly.
What do you sit with?
Yeah.
You hold all the power, and I think that's what people don't realise is you decide what you do and don't do. You decide what does and doesn't affect you to a certain extent, and I know you have feelings and everything, but you do, as a person, you have all the power, and I think especially as a performer, it seems we're made out that all the power is elsewhere, like they decide if you get the job, they blah 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 blah, and you get so bogged down on that. But I think if you focus on yourself, focus on where you want to be, what you want to achieve, you will get there.
I agree.
And that leads us into point 3. What are the facts? Now, what I mean by this is what I sort of just touched on before, is knowing, so you know you want to be in the Lion King, you know that the auditions are coming up in 2 months, you need to sing a song and you need to have a backflip. I don't even know. I don't know. Do you need to do a backflip to be in the Lion King?
I honestly, I've never seen the stage show. I've been part of the audition process, and there's a lot of puppetry kind of stuff, I guess, to an extent. I don't know, maybe puppetry is the wrong word, but I mean, when you think about it, they're all different animals, aren't they? And all the different animals will be Well, it's animal studies in my mind, coming from an acting perspective.
Well, clearly neither of us have wanted to be or know anything about the Lion King, so that's why we don't know anything. However,
I don't think we're the right casting for the Lion King.
That's true.
So maybe that's why.
Maybe that's why we've not been called in that way. Anyway.
A good show, though. I understand. I mean, it's long running for a reason.
Back to what we were saying, and I'll stick on the Lion King.
Yeah, I think that's good.
Anyway, so what do your dreams entail? What do you need to know? So, like we say, your audition's coming up. You need all these things. You've decided this is really what you want. You're willing to take that acting class. You're willing to do this. So, what tangible thing can you do right now on this day to get you there? You can book an acting class. You can book a singing class. You can do an adults gymnastics class. You can, do you know? There's always, you're always in control, and you always have the power to take a step forward, even if it's a tiny, tiny baby step. This isn't like you need to just leap into like being Lion King ready, you know? It's just little tiny steps every day that are going to get you there.
It's all significant, I'd say as well. I think sometimes in this day and age, success is measured on how quickly you achieve it, whereas I think you think of anything, any sort of professional of some sort, with a craft, they've taken years to get to where they are, and not everything, you don't get instant gratification for everything. Obviously in some cases you will, but small steps in my opinion are so important, because they're little building blocks, and the more little blocks you have when you're building something, the stronger the foundations are going to be.
And that's maybe something else we can talk about on another podcast, but it's like longevity in the industry comes from those little steps. It doesn't come from like, people want the gratification of posting on Instagram and saying they've got this job, but they don't want to do the little steps to get there, you know?
Yeah.
But I think, so know what skills you need to do, know what you need to do in the process, actually doing them, and asking yourself, are you willing to learn them? Are you willing to put yourself out there to get there? I think it's not something to be daunted by. I think seeing exactly what you need to do, write it down, like make a plan, seeing that there, it's like a tangible thing for you. It makes you be like, it's rewiring in your brain to be like, this is going to make me better, this is going to make me more successful, this is going to bring me closer to what I want to do. And at the end of the day, that's most important.
I'd say with that as well, writing things down is such a good thing, because sometimes I think in your head...
Sorry, I keep hitting the microphone.
She's all arms and legs. No, but I think sometimes when you think about things in your head, it can feel quite a lot, you know? And then when to write things down, sometimes it's like, oh, actually, I can do this, and that's not far away, and whatever. It's sort of almost like to see it, as opposed to think it, even though it's the same sort of thing.
Yeah.
It can actually give you a bit of a reality check almost. No, actually, that's all right. Like the pros and cons lists, you know?
Yeah.
You know, when something's on your mind and it's like, oh, I don't know what to do, and you write a list of pros and cons, and it's like, oh, well, that's the thing to do all along.
Yeah.
And you've been thinking it all the time, but you just haven't had the sort of the mental capacity of rationally, like...
Putting it down. It down. I feel like it almost sounds really simple, and in some aspects it is that simple, just do the steps, but I know like human nature, it's not that simple. You'll have all these, again, your self-sabotaging thoughts, or your worries being like, well, I can't afford to take an extra class, I can't, blah, 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 blah. But then I guess if those thoughts come in, your baby step is, well, what can I do to combat that thought? Can I work an extra few hours this week? Can I, ask mum? Can I, you know what I mean? Like,
there's
always
options.
something you can do.
Yeah.
I feel like it's human nature to sort of sit in that place of, oh, I don't know, maybe we can't, maybe, oh.
Yeah, well, I think that we naturally want to protect ourselves from anything bad happening. It's like a human instinct, which is, so it's okay to feel like that, but I think it's so important, like you say, to recognise it and be like, I actually can do more than this feeling is making me feel is impossible, whatever, you know.
And results are going to come from the action that you take. It's never going to come from not doing anything.
No.
I feel like you will regret doing nothing more than doing something and it not working out.
Absolutely. Yeah, I totally agree with that.
leading us on to point 5.
The next
I
point.
don't know. Next point, last one, I think. So again, they all tie into each other. So, what is stopping you? I feel like with dreams, a large element of it is consistency. It's not going to happen overnight, despite, well...
Unless you're lucky.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, there's maybe some people who could, but most people, it's hard work and it's constant, all elements of it. It's constant, like, work on your craft, but it's also constant work on yourself, your self-belief. It's constant work on your mental health and making sure you're in that place. Like, there's so many aspects of it. So I guess you have to work out what's stopping you and what's limiting you getting there, that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, keep trying. You don't want to be the reason you don't want to get somewhere, that's the thing. That's going back to me saying the power that you have and you hold. It's at the end of the day, it's up to you to go get the things you want. No one's going to hand it to you. You have to put yourself out there. You have to keep pushing yourself, and yeah, that just comes into what's stopping you.
Well, I think it's two ways. I think the more you feed something, the more you're going to focus on that thing you're feeding. We all know people who are like, oh, I can't do this because, I wish I could, or whatever. Do you know what I mean? People who are very sort of, as you say, self-sabotaging, or like, I can't. If I was going to an excuse or a reason for perhaps not doing something, obviously sometimes I think will be legitimate. I think other times though, it's that mental battle of, and I think if you're feeding that side of you, you're going to feel more defeated by every little thing that you don't do. Whereas if you find and feed the positive and actually, I've done this, I've done that, you're going to gain momentum in that. And I think 100%. That it's two ways. I guess what I'm trying to say. You gain momentum in thinking downward, if you like, or upward. And
yeah,
like I say, we all know there's people who are constantly like, oh no, whatever. And it's hard to get out of because you've fed it so much and it's such a big feeling now.
It's not an easy thing.
Yeah, it's always, I think that's the thing, isn't it? It's always important to acknowledge. It's always easy to say something.
Yeah,
action is hard, but not impossible. And I believe
we are two people that we can proudly say that we've been in that place before, that sort of like mundane, that sort of...
Yeah, you can absolutely get stuck.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And I think changing your circumstances or changing your routine, whatever it is that needs changing, you can do it. You can do it.
Yeah. I think it's important to remember as well that if you wouldn't have the desire to do something if you didn't have the ability to do it as well.
That's very true, actually.
In some shape or form, even if like right now you're like, well, no, I can't do a backflip. You could learn. You could. You wouldn't like have that sort of drive and fire in your belly for something if it wasn't meant to happen for you. And I think that is something very important to keep reminding yourself on the days that it's like, well, I can't do this, I can't. Everything's stopping you.
There's stuff out there that shows you can do. I mean, it makes me think of people who say you want to lose a load of weight. You see videos and transformations like that all the time.
Definitely.
Like it translates into other things.
Yeah. I definitely know something I struggled with and used to stop me, I guess, was feeling like everything had to be perfect and I had to come into like no roadblocks. Like if you look at it on paper, it sounds so perfect. It sounds like you're going to take the acting class and the singing class and you're going to learn to do a backflip and you're going to get the job, and like sure it might work like that for some people, but realistically you're going to come into some roadblocks and some things. And I know previous Zara would have been like, well, it's not working, and gone back into that place so easily, where it's like, how boring would life be if everything was perfect all the time? Do you know what I mean?
You wouldn't necessarily feel good or bad about anything because everything's sort of at the same level all the time.
You wouldn't learn, you wouldn't grow, you wouldn't
appreciate
get anything from life. Like, you are the person you are today because of every roadblock you've come up against and everything you've had to overcome, and that's just a part of it. And
it's character building.
Yeah, every time that you feel like you can't do it and you push past that is making you a better person, a better performer, or whatever it is in life that you're doing. You know, it's bettering you in some way. It's all about learn, grow, change, the plan 100 times, but don't stop working towards the things that make you happy to be alive. You know, it's
again, life's too short.
Yeah, it is
too short.
I do feel like we both really believe that in a sense of, and like leaving London and just, you know, completely changing up our lives. It's like we weren't happy. Let's go do something that makes us happy. Let's go.
Absolutely.
Like our souls were shouting for us to do something like we're doing now, and it was so scary. There was so many people that don't do it, well, not don't do it, but like apprehensive for us in case it didn't work or whatever. But life's too short to listen to other people. Everyone's here living their own life, and you have to do what's right for you at the end of the day.
Obviously, I think on that though, sometimes people aren't going to be like, oh no, because they don't want you to. It'll be coming from a place of care.
Yeah.
But I think you've got to recognise sometimes that's it's despite it coming from a place of care. It's like I believe in it, and
100%.
I'm going to do it.
And I think, and maybe a good way to round up this point, the what's stopping you thing is, your dreams aren't a question. Like, it's not like, oh, I want to be in this show, but it might not happen. It will happen for you. It just depends how much you're willing to work for it, how long you're willing to work for it, how much that. Do you know what I mean? It's like it will. It just will. You have to have that undying trust and put everything you have into it, you know?
Absolutely. It's like you said back at the beginning, I think the way you apply yourself will depend on the outcome at the end of the day.
Definitely.
It goes for anything, you know? I think the way you apply yourself in any which way, even, you know, relationships, career, family, like whatever, it's all relevant.
Yeah.
It translates into so many different things. Yeah.
I love talking about stuff.
Is there anything else you want to sort of say? Like, is that kind of where you feel that?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, there's obviously so much you can go into, so much, but I think the underlying thing, like, to take away from this is find out what it is you want. Be honest with yourself. Be brutally honest with yourself. You could be, you know, performing in the West End right now and turn around one day and be like, do you know what? I actually really want to be a vet. It doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter. It doesn't. If that's what's going to make you the happiest right now, then that's great. If you're in training and you're being told to go on 100 cruise ships because that's what everyone else is doing, but you're like, actually, I want to do a commercial video, or I want to like join a band or something, like maybe still within the industry, but it's like not what you're being told is the way. That's okay. There's 100 ways.
We live in a world now where, you know, people in the past would have started in a career, worked it till they retire, and then that's it.
Yeah.
We're in a lucky. You can change what you want to do overnight, and
100%.
And you can then do that again the next week. I'm not saying that's not necessarily the best way of doing things. Maybe it is, maybe it's not. I don't know. But the point is that is a luxury that we can do.
Yeah.
So we're not limited by, like, I've started this career in mechanics and I'm never going to be a farmer, you know? I mean, you probably have a lot of useful things in mechanics that go with farming. Anyway, this isn't a farming podcast. I was
getting carried away because he actually deep down wants to be a farmer one day, so...
Yeah, I'm going to be a farmer.
Well, he used to work in a pig farm.
I don't think this isn't relevant.
Anyway, sorry.
It was fun though.
As we were saying, be honest with yourself what you want to do. Work out what's stopping you doing it. Work out what is you need to do tangibly, you know, book that class. I challenge you all to do one thing today that is going to get you to what your dream is. Maybe that's just like maybe you're like, I don't bloody know what I want, and you just take a day to yourself to like be in your thoughts. You know, it can be anything. It doesn't have to be this big grand gesture.
Write down things you enjoy.
Yeah.
You know, and like, oh yeah, I've never think about that often. But,
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, I think maybe at some point soon we'll do a podcast all about like, I don't know about you coming from an acting perspective, I'm sure it's the same, but I feel like as a dancer you train and everyone's like, it has to be your life, it has to be all you want, and if you leave the industry, if you decide for whatever reason to do something else, it's like this massive big deal, you know, whereas if someone was to be a farmer and then they wanted to go off and be a doctor, no one would think anything of it, you know, like...
Yeah. I mean, maybe they would in that field, you don't know.
Maybe, that's true.
But I take your point. I think, yeah, it can feel like when you pick your path, then that's your path, but
it's not
nothing
true.
is set.
It's not
Nothing
true.
is set.
Anyway, I think we've chatted to you enough. Given you enough to think about.
I think that's good. I think it's been very interesting to hear all that, and I think, you know, even listening, and if it's something that resonates and you take away, it can be very empowering sometimes to hear something that you needed to hear, even if you didn't know you needed to hear it.
Yeah.
And I think that's the point of these podcasts that we're doing as well, is we want to make people feel empowered in themselves, because
100%.
like you said it in this podcast, like you have the ability to do it, so
yeah,
what's stopping
you? Maybe, I don't know when this will come out, but everything we've just spoken about was a previous blog post that I wrote about ages ago.
Yeah.
But maybe we can pop it on Quartz.
We should do that.
Quartz blog. Well, TBC, what's going on there? But if the blog is live on the website at this point, this and probably a lot more like coherent detail will be in the blog post. But yeah, thanks for listening to us.
Thank you so much for listening.
If you've made it this far, give yourself a pat on the back. Maybe this is your step to bettering yourself.
Maybe.
Listening to us.
Whatever the case, thank you for listening. We really appreciate it.
Appreciate it.
This is Tina Chat with Harry and Zara, a Quartz Academy podcast.
Yes, find us on Instagram, Facebook, our website, or you can email us at info@quartzacademy.co.uk.
Thank you so much. Have a
We love
lovely
you.
rest of the day.
Bye.
Bye.